So today is December the 11th, 2004. My name is Rosa Korowska, and I'm here with Professor Guo at UCL. This interview is for the Ming I London British-Chinese Workforce Heritage Project. So could you begin by telling me your full name?
My full name is Zheng Xiao Guo. In the Chinese way, it's actually Guo Zheng Xiao, because we do put surnames in different positions. Yeah.
Great. And when were you born?
I was born on the 6th January 1964. Yeah.
And where were you born?
I was born in a place called Nanyang in Henan province in China, which is a very central part of China.
Can you tell me something about your family?
I am the eldest of 6, if you like, siblings of my parents in the rural areas of Nanyang city. I have 3 other brothers and 2 sisters.
And where are they now? Are they in China?
They are all in China. In fact, we're all working around the Henan province, in Nanyang and in Zhengzhou, which is the capital city of Henan.
And what about your mother and father? What did they do?
My father was a leader in the local brigade at in the past. Unfortunately, he died 15 years ago, when I was in Britain. My mother was a teacher in the school, local school. So we were brought up in the with my strong influence of my parents, if you like, in the rural area.
By strong influence, what do you mean?
I know you. In the in childhood, every child tends to take their parents as their role models. So my parents, for example, my father's work dealing with lots of people, solving issues in the local area, and helping others in the big village. All these influenced my growing up. My mother, being a teacher, made me feel interested in studying, reading, and writing probably at an earlier age. Yeah. So I actually went to school very early, just before probably I was 6. Yeah. But in China, at that time, the age to get into school is actually 7 or 8 in some places. Yeah, it's different from here.
But your mother put you in school earlier?
Yeah, I did in school earlier. Yeah. And I saw was my one of my aunties as a teacher as well. So they both influenced me, like my interest in study probably relatively earlier compared with other children at the time. Yeah. And now many people know how China have developed, now with big cities, big transport, fast-growing economy. But back, actually 50 years ago, in the 60s, China was relatively poor country, particularly in the countryside. The living conditions were, really, really, really poor. So for people to make a better living at that time, the main route is to go through schools, study hard, and try to find a better job for the future. I went to a primary school in a local area of, in fact, in Nanyang. It's in the southeast part of Nanyang, called Yangyin. It's another brigade name. So I had to, even when I went to school, I had to walk about half a mile to the primary school at the age of 6 or 7. But unfortunately, I was accompanied by elder children at the time. Now, study conditions were poor, but on the other hand, I felt my childhood was a very happy one. parents were very supportive, and because of when I went to school, my brother and sister were born, so I had to actually share the burden of looking after my younger brothers and sisters. So family was happy. I guess without comparison, you didn't feel that there was a very poor sort of living conditions. Happy. It actually tells me that happiness doesn't mean that you have to live in luxury. So if you can live happily, eat with food and clothing, a shelter above your head, that basic condition was actually okay. Certainly, my father's fathers, and I know quite a few generations of my family were living in similar areas, in fact in the same village. Yeah, it's, I think such a village. In fact, within the village of let's see, of 300 people, they share the same surname, Guo. So we're all sort of related if we go a few generations back. So it was quite a nice, warm community. People do tend to help each other. I mentioned, for example, one of my, there was a sort of remotely related granny. She has no children herself. When she was old, she could not fetch water. Even water has to be fetched. By the way, there's no tap to run water in the families. So I think before I grew up, well, my father helped. I have another uncle helped as well. But when I grew up, so I actually was taught regularly to help. As a granny. Even when this happened, this actually lasted for probably 5 or 6 years. Even when I went away to high school, it's this kind of influence. It's just an example of influence of people very close to each other and help those in need. Has actually influenced me greatly. In addition to gaining knowledge, if you like, and but act as a I think it's carved the environment for me, for my future to become probably a person. I felt that a person should have responsibility, and share the responsibilities in whatever organizations or groups you are in. Particularly for scientists, 30 or 50 years to the current, I think it's a great responsibility for scientists to look at issues we want to resolve, increasing humanity, right? Yeah. So I think there's a link from the origin of my humble, upbringing, right? Yeah.
So you still you see that kind of positive influence on humanity and the society as the core aim of your research?
Yeah, I think that's what it's probably this kind of feeling grows stronger maybe when scientists get older, if you like. Yeah. So I guess in the naive mind of a 6 or 7 year old, knowing the condition, when the happy condition, but we knew on the other hand there were the living condition has to be improved. So the aim at that time probably was just to study hard and to support my parents, support the family in the future, and so that was the initial probably aim and ambition in a young sort of child's mind, and eventually that's what I think when you study growing up, you realize that gaining knowledge, doing creating something is not just to make a bit of living or make a bit of money for the family, but more importantly, I think. Is to do something that really can create a good impact to society, make contributions, I guess. A more contribution than what we take is something I think eventually grow in my mind. I think it takes time. It's not maybe others will have. I do not believe a very young child would have, particularly in a rural area, would appreciate the whole challenges. For example, the world we're facing. I would not understand even, for example, in fact, when I was in school, it was actually the last part of the Cultural Revolution. That period of time, we talked a lot, but from a child's sort of eye, what I saw was things happened which are really incomprehensible. Some people in power for a few weeks, then suddenly after that another group of people were in power. So there was a rather confusing period of time for many children, right? So that also I think influenced my again later in life of trying to understand better of history and society. Although as a natural scientist, my primary aim is to discover solutions and remedies, technical, products for things. But at the same time, this influences also can help me to really look into other parts, other important things in life as well. So not just research.
Yeah, it's a very chaotic time in Chinese history.
That's right. It's quite chaotic. Although I didn't experience what others have experienced in the cities, in the urban area, but certainly, even in the rural, countryside, things were happening as well, as I mentioned. I can give you another example about my father's influence, because in the countryside there were classified as enemy or bad guys. They were the landlord, the rich, 地富反坏右. These are the five. Yeah, the different of landlord, the rich, the anti-revolutionary, the baddies, and the ratists, sort of people. Yeah, they were the. And in fact, one of the probably landlords maybe was actually next to my village, and whenever there was revolutions, it would be put forward in front of the mass, being criticized, etc. And from time to time, they were the elder but still naive sort of youth would throw stones at him and kick him. Really, that was something which I do not, did not understand. But because of the situation, no one could do anything. And this particular person was actually, I think, eventually really, probably mentally really ill. And I remember he was suffering. He was really wandering around in the field in a cold, probably like summertime, cold winter or autumn weather with rain. And my father saw him, in the field. But as a leader in the brigade, he could not do anything. And he taught me to, as a child, at the time, to bring a ring cover and led him to a bean food, and led him to a small shelter. It's these sort of small things that actually create big influence in a child. Yeah.
But as a party brigade leader, your father would still be putting himself at risk to send you as his son.
That's right. Basically, he of course, he said, it is getting dark, so no one will really see. And in fact, in the village, he was well respected. So he could not do things very openly, but we know that really most people support him. Yeah. So it's almost free to even talk more. Is that he always work, set examples, work hard. He would get up earlier than many others and go home later. There was in fact he was doing similar things. One day, this in fact it's in 19. I'm trying to remember more clearly. 1988. Then this is I was in fact, in 1987, 1980 was the year I went back. It's just an example, kind of. He worked very hard. It was actually in a high summer. The temperature was in this case was very hot. I think it was 33, 35 degrees Celsius. I think he got up very early, worked very hard in the field. So others worked and then invested. He probably worked for too long. And this was actually even after a visiting, I think, meeting in the previous stage. Didn't rest very well. So what happened? I think he suffered a headache. It's a stroke. But the local people did not realize, didn't understand it. There's another explanation. I thought he was just being dehydrated due to the hot weather. So he was, so he lost conscious. The locals put it, shook him around, give him the water, and he didn't really, recover. Eventually, they took him to the local hospital about 10 miles away. But with all the shaking and vibrations, he never managed to recover from that. This has also influenced me greatly because at that time I was really doing my PhD in the UK, in Manchester, and I felt this the lack of good medical supply or proper supply, proper even knowledge in the local area, rural areas, without proper measures when people fall ill. It's a strong issue. So that's all these have influenced me in my pertinent interest in our persuasion of science in solving practical problems. Worldwide, not just in China. But
So at what point did you leave for the UK, or did you go to university?
Yeah, that's what I did. Because I went to school earlier, I must say that. And the education, the primary and secondary education were relatively short. So I went to university in 1979 when I was just left before I was 16 years old to Northeastern University in a city called Shenyang, which is in the northeast. It's a very it's a capital for heavy industry in China. So I did my undergraduate degree there in study materials science, metallurgy. Then after graduation. Then there were, I think at that time, there were very good relationships. China still were open, as you know, since the 80s, early 80s. So I graduated in 83. Then there was, in fact, the British Council scholarship called a TC scholarship. I still remember it. This was offered to a few Chinese students. Fortunately, I was passing various selection examinations. I was selected as one of, I remember, 5 students sponsored by British Council TC scholarship to study in the UK. So my supervisor at the time is Dr. Norman Ridley at Manchester University. That's what happened.
So that scholarship was for PhD students.
That's right. At that time, I think these are PhD scholarships. However, there was an interesting story because if you remember, during the Cultural Revolution, university cities were sort of basically stopped. It's reopened since 1976, 77. So I went to university 3 years after the 1979. Western University were unsure about the quality of education provisions at the time in China. So I had to be reassessed. Particularly, I had to do I think I did very well being selected as one of the very, very few to study abroad, being given a scholarship. But I was still asked to do a master's degree before doing PhD. So that's why actually my overall postgraduate study lasted for 4.5 years, probably longer than home students like at the time. Yeah.
And that was in Manchester?
That was in Manchester, yeah.
And those 5 scholarships, the British Council, were they all in the sciences? Or?
That's what I think. British Council at the time were trying to support the scientific industrial developments in China. So all these are actually in science, technology, engineering. Yeah. So I remember material science as one, computational science. Another one, actually 2 in computer science, 1 in automation, engineering. The last one, I can't remember, civil engineering. Yeah, these were 5 of us coming to study in different places. Yeah.
And in 1983, was that the first year that this scholarship was offered, or?
It's good. I think the TC scholarship lasted for about maybe 3 years, 3 to 4. I couldn't remember exactly. But it's certainly 83 probably is the second or third year. So it's probably 81, 82, 83, 84. I don't remember that it lasted in 85. Then it was changing different things. Yeah.
And so did the British Council pay for your travel to?
I think at that time was agreement between British Council and the Ministry of Education in China. There could be some shared sponsorships. As a student, I think it wasn't very clear how these scholarships were provided, because we actually get stipends directly from the embassy rather than from the British Council. So the agreement was actually between the British Council and the Ministry of Education. It's certainly quite five of us are really lucky at the time, because there were very, very few students had the opportunity to come to go abroad to study. Considering now there were, I think 20,000 per year, I think, coming to Britain to study for various subjects.
From mainland China?
From mainland China.
20,000 per year?
Something like that, yeah.
And today it must be 100.
Yeah. The total number of students in the UK now is 120,000.
All from mainland China?
From the Chinese, the big China territory, if you like. But mainly from mainland China. Yeah. This includes high schools, university studies.
And so, did you all travel together?
We could fight it. Yeah, because we had no much knowledge of what's happening in the UK or in the West. So we were certainly collectively trained in our English, to make sure that we had a good level of verbal oral English, and we were that's right, traveled together and picked up by embassy officers just to help us, because we knew no one apart from a few letters with the supervisor. So we did come together. I still remember the day I landed in Gatwick Airport. At that time, the flight took I think 16 or 18 hours. Stopped twice somewhere in Sharjah and Frankfurt before landing in Gatwick. It was a long journey, but it was came actually. I still remember the day was 21st of September, when it was such an important day for a student, for young people, young person, and what was astonishing to me was that at that time in China, the trees turn yellow and the earth reveals the original color, yellow as well. So it's yellow earth everywhere. But here, the big difference is when I step out of the door, it's a vast area of green land, and it was really, really very impressive to see. Wow, because I heard about the UK was, in the whole UK was a big garden. So that actually proved it was true on the first side.
So your first impressions were, apart from the green, how did you find because you came to Manchester from Gatwick, you travelled by train?
Yeah, that's what we had. We were. That's what we stayed one night in the embassy in education section actually. At that time, the education section in London was 50 Drayton Green. This is the section has since moved to a different place to Portland Street. But again, that was a nice, traditional British, actually a big building. It's bigger than a family building. It's a compound with a nice garden. So we stayed there overnight. Then I think we took I took a bus to Manchester. Fortunately, at Manchester there were a few other visitors came in 2 years before, so they actually helped me finding an accommodation, sorting out the initial settlement in Manchester. So there was there were helps at hand, which was actually quite beautiful, for me to understand and get around, get along, or quickly settle like in the new environment. Yeah.
So, what were your first impressions of Manchester?
Manchester, we now, given the conditions I came from, even at universities in China, I was living, university undergraduates in China shared dormitories with 6 or 7 other students. We have a double multi bed, and so in Manchester, we were because as students are very poor, even with scholarships. So most of the students live around the Manchester Uni, which are Russian or Hume area. If you mention Hume or Russian to the locals, they would know immediately. They would know what the area is like. So it's run down by the UK standard. However, for me, it's quite good. I can have my own room, so that's a big improvement. So actually, although there was by local standard, it was probably one of the probably poorer areas in the city. But I was really happy that I have my own room, have shared a kitchen within walking distance to university to study. Of course, you see other different things, big buildings. Clearly, the whole environment was different, very different from what China was at the time. If I particularly compare the city I was educated in Shenyang, Shenyang was around. It was very, very, very cold in the winter. I had to have bigger blankets to cover windows and doors, to keep warm in. And the big chimneys were, pumping smoke and contaminants, to provide the heat for the city population. So the environment was particularly in winter, was very polluted, even at the time. Hence, the physical environment and the study environment, living environment are all very, for a student, for me, quite impressive at the time. Yeah.
And at the time, were there many other Chinese students in Manchester?
There were not many. In fact, since the open door policy started in the early 80s, in 81, 82, I'm probably the third wave of wave is probably big phrase. Yeah, third small batch of students being sent abroad to study. So there were in 2 years before and another 4. There were, I think, a few, also a handful, probably few directly sent from maybe the year 2 or year 3 to undergrad, 2 year, 1 year to undergraduate studies in UK. So there were probably another 4 or 5 undergraduate students maybe some senior visitors, short-term visitors. Total, I think there were about 16. I think, I remember that 16 people from China, so forming a small group. We meet very often sharing experiences. I think, and also for me coming out before I was 20, there was a bit homesickness as well. So big brothers and sisters and the teachers around, so it was quite a big support.
So were all the 16 of you in Manchester? Were you all studying sciences or? Most of them are still. That's why I think most of them were in the science engineering disciplines. The early days were, I think there was one. There were one girl was studying probably arts. Yeah. I can't think of how did. She studied arts because I think she's one of the lucky ones. She has relatives in Hong Kong, in the States. She was supported by the relative, so she chose the subject. I think mainly through the state-sponsored, if you like, scholarships, or mainly I think in science engineering. And so I think it's only many years later these other disciplines, study of other disciplines will become populated. Of course, nowadays. I think student study science engineering is probably in the minority. Many will study business, language, culture, quite a vast range of subject areas. And did you have any other jobs before you became a full-time kind of scientist? While you were studying, did you work part-time?
No, fortunately. One is, I guess, as I said, given the opportunity, environment for study, I was really fully immersed to, what I could do with the provisions in the lab, with support of the supervisors and the department as a whole. So actually, I think we all worked very hard. I think, none of us took a part-time job at the time. Although our stipends were not very high, by any means, again, these figures come in. My stipend was £164 per month at the time. But I was doing fine. I couldn't buy luxuries like what I would buy now. It's quite sufficient for living. So there was no need. It's basically no need to get more, funding or money, by working part time. So it was but I did interact with students, within the group, within the departments, mainly in the academic environment, probably. We had a few English British families supporting students at the time. We visited them quite often with others. So there was quite a good cultural interaction in weekends before Christmas in particular. I think I had a very good friend. I should have visited him again soon. I always thought to find him. We have not been in touch probably for a good 80 years, but we were. He was a technician in our department, Dave. Unfortunately, I only know that was the first name now, Dave. And his family were very supportive, and we were visiting his family quite often, and we become very good friends. When I went to other in Oxford and in London, he came to visit with his wife. It's only in the last 2 years, I guess. I was too busy with research. Sometimes I felt that I should really pick up some of the, renew the acquaintances with friends in the area. Because it was first time for me to be abroad. My first destination for me to be in the UK. Although my year in Manchester was probably 4.5. I always felt that I belong to Manchester, like if as a second home. I guess the fresh environment creates much stronger impression to a student, and the first impression of the London impression was very short. It was just a quick impression, but then it was Manchester that really found a supportive cradle for my academic life.
And so you Manchester's the strongest memory, but you also studied in Strathclyde, Oxford, and Queen Mary before coming here.
Indeed, yeah.
So how did you experience in the different universities? Was it different?
I think, they were quite, not only the subject of investigation different, but actually the general environment. I guess the difference in the local, societal environment, and also, of course, the academic environments were different as well. In Manchester, and as student in Manchester, I think, it's, I felt, it's a great environment to support, my study. And were helpful. My supervisor Norman was very, very helpful. In fact, took me to various opportunities for conferences and meetings. We even went together to Japan in order to save. I think the funding was limited. In order to save funding, we even stayed in the same 2 bedrooms, the hotel room. Social support and caring. We were still in touch. To me, actually, it was like a father, academic father, definitely, as a supervisor. In fact, in the Chinese culture, your supervisor is like an academic father, parent. That's a shi, there's a saying like 老师与父母, something similar kind of saying. Yeah. But in this case, it was Norman was really active as a very caring, supportive supervisor, not academically but socially, as well. So just to divert a little bit too long. So Manchester, I think, it's a supportive environment for my, from a general study, and in Strathclyde, I have felt that with these Scottish environments, people are probably more actually more friendly, more interactive. Especially in the department, and I was working in different subjects. They were because it's a more engineering environment, whereas in Manchester was science, it was engineering. So I think there was a stronger focus on the engineering aspects of technologies. So that's I guess another thing is at Strathclyde, I started because I was a postdoc, had a bit of money, I guess. That's the time I started to go relatively regularly to pubs with the teachers, with other friends. So I made more friends, probably more local friends were at Strathclyde, whereas in Manchester was maybe students, teachers around the department. And again, as a student with the limited stipends, I didn't manage to. Again, I was too young to drink. I learned drinking at the time. In fact, I didn't. I learned drinking beer and coffee and soup and steak. These are the things which I picked up, and I started to really like them since coming here. Anyway, so that's the Strathclyde without going too far away. And in Oxford. It's Oxbridge are the Evertol's the highest of many universities. So it's students dream to at least have an Oxford Cambridge experience. So I was fortunate to join Oxford. I was employed by Professor Brian Cantor. I still again we got along very well. Brian. He's kind of a chancellor at Barclay University. Still been in touch, and another brand as well. Brand Darby, 2 brands. They both were working as a team, looking at solving materials problem for aero engines. So we started to have more interactions with industry like Rolls-Royce, Temet UK, British Alcan. Some of them were. Unfortunately do not exist anymore. But there were strong industrial interactions, and there's a sense of academically, there's a sense of strong drive, immersion in the field to basically to thrive as an individual. So there's a strong emphasis on individual excellence, which I think is important. It's almost the culture and tradition in this environment. Although collaboration did exist, exists in the university as well. But I think if I want to make a difference, there's a strong drive for individual excellence, more, if you like to mention, in Oxford. Now, Queen Mary, among all the University of London colleges, Queen Mary was probably number 3 or number 4 at the time. I felt it's a much more multicultural environment at Queen Mary, given Queen Mary's location, and also actually most of the London University are probably more multicultural than other universities. So I learned to probably share more with other cultures, understand a bit more about other cultures as well. Because another thing, so Queen Mary was, if you like, is another big change for me, because I joined Queen Mary as a lecturer in the academic, if you like, in the faculty, as a faculty staff, where others were postdocs. So I had I thought I was really supported to develop my own academic interest, independent pursuance of what would like to could do. Then I, fortunately, I was able to to collaborate, collaborate with the local colleagues. At the time, there was an interdisciplinary research center in biomaterials, look at particularly all the interface between materials use in supporting human health, orthopedics, orthopedic implants is actually the areas I was contributing, trying to develop titanium alloys with surfaces is slightly technical, but at least it's a new field, built on what I did in Oxford and Clyde. So it was quite supportive in that way. And come to UCL. UCL is not only multicultural, but also is much more collegiate. You see collaborations really exist everywhere, anywhere, across far greater field and boundaries. For example, it's not just a collaboration within department within one department or one school, but also science with engineering science with even humanities, looking at big challenges. So the influence and impact, if you in the last 7.5 years at UCL, is probably much stronger from an academic progress and academic, if you like, pursuance. Yeah. In fact, to give you an example, at one time, I still have about 8 to collaborative projects. At one time, I probably have UK industry, European supported project, about 11, all in consortia. In other words, I'm solving part of a bigger problem in collaboration with colleagues within London, within UK, within Europe, and a couple actually with people in the States and China and Japan. So there were very international collaborative efforts within UCL. In solving technical scientific problems.
And so, in kind of simple terms, because I'm not.
So I know you study something.
I've done a bit of chemistry, but not. Can you describe something about your current research, what you're working on, and what you're sort of aims at, what you're trying to create?
Yeah. My research effort could probably be broadly described as developing nanostructures and devices for energy, environmental, and some actually even healthcare applications. Now, people know nanotechnology has been well described in many media in different way, in different and different occasions. Particularly, if I mention graphene, I think many people would recognize the phrase. Graphene was made and functional, actually made tested, proved useful in many ways by Professor Gam in Manchester, the Nobel Prize winner in physics. Is one of an examples of nanostructures or low-dimensional nanostructures. When in general, what we see around us, what we are actually made of materials of relatively larger sizes. Their what we call properties in terms of strength, stability, even their color, all to do with their structures. Their structure even down to the atomic or electronic level. Now the nanostructures differ is because these large scale structures, their properties are collectively supported by features across all the scales from atomic to millimeters, really 10 to minus if you like 10 to there's a few in 1 nanometer, as we know, is 10 to the power of now it's telling me 10 to the power of -9 meter. Yeah.
Power of -9.
Yeah, I think it is 10 to the -9. Yeah. So this is if you look at meter science, there's a 10 orders of magnitude difference. There are lots of features in between. So that, these are the properties we see collectively on average. But at the very small scale, in fact, at the probably tenths of a nanometer scale, there were few atoms regularly packed in as they do in a bulk sort of level. There were lots of surfaces. Like the relative surface area per unit volume, per unit weight, is far greater than a bigger lump of material. So the surface properties become important. And another thing is because the atoms at the surfaces pack arranging themselves differently as they were in the middle, then they show different properties. What we call quantum effect or quantum confinement effect. All this means that the nanostructures, even of the same chemistry, would be very different in terms of properties from their counterpart at a vacuum level. Hence, there's a great interest in developing the nanostructures to make good use of these local properties, the properties at a local scale. In fact, another thing is the kind of drive in advanced technologies, adding miniaturization of electronic products. Our phones have become smaller, and then again more powerful because we can make better structures at a nano scale, better control of the atomic packing in the chips. And similarly, we can develop smaller structures with a specific surface packing, which will show greater or more efficient, for example, what we call catalytic properties, since we learn the chemistry, for making more efficient chemical products, or to create a structure that can hold more higher density of energy carriers. This can be some ionic products, could be even charges like electrons. and one of the areas I'm working particularly on is actually hydrogen storage. Hydrogen is the first element in the periodic table, very light. Burning hydrogen produces water. It's a very clean energy carrier. But storing hydrogen in large quantities is actually very difficult because of light. If you have a store, say like 5 kilograms of hydrogen in a balloon, the balloon will be far bigger than a car. You wanted to power, you could even lift the car up, and a smaller car up. So we have to find a ways of nanostructures to actually allow the hydrogen to dissociate and pack far more densely than the gaseous form, so that we can actually store enough hydrogen just to use the volume of the car, for example, similar volume as the current fuel tank in the car. So these are the targets, the practical targets, and the challenges is really to find the right sort of structures to store such high density. Now once we have kind of find the structures, but another challenge is to actually liberate the hydrogen out at the condition of use the engines or for vehicles. So that's it's a series of challenges which we have to resolve in order to produce practically useful products. So these are some of the things we're doing. In fact, my colleagues have been working very hard trying to develop such materials. Of storage. Yes.
Yeah.
You'll see. I mentioned the graphene. Some of these are modified graphenes, because graphene offers large surface area. If we modify the surface a bit more, we can actually grab more hydrogen. We can actually store more lithium in for lithium-ion batteries, or more hydrogen for hydrogen fuel cells. Basically.
So the technology in miniaturization of digital things, and then in making fuel cells smaller, and in healthcare. So do you think the impact on society will be large?
Indeed, these are as you know, these are actually, if you like, really critical issues facing humanity as a whole. We know the issue, the ultimate, increasingly the climate change issue is probably one of the biggest problems we're all facing. The reason for that was excessive CO2 emission by human activities, particularly burning of fossil fuels through transport, through industrial manufacturing, through generating electricity. So having to develop nanostructures, one is to enable rapid introduction of so-called renewable energies, which are energy like solar, wind, and even clean carriers like hydrogen, to reduce urban pollution, urban sort of pollution in urban environment, or also CO2 emission, which hydrogen can be generated cleanly. There are ways of doing that. Or you can use a fossil fuel to generate hydrogen, but with the CO2 being captured at the point of generation rather than released to the environment. All these help solving the energy and environmental problems. Particularly energy, environmental, and even health care are all related. If you use a polluting energy, you pollute the environment and cause climate change, but at the same time it causes health problems. In fact, many of the problems we face are due to pollutions of one way or another, either in the air or in food products or in water. If we have the environment like I saw, very green and clear and clean, 30 years ago, I think we'll really enjoy probably a better, happier living. I also mentioned in my childhood the conditions were poor, but the air was clean and the water was clean. So in fact there were few illnesses, if you like, apart from the hardship. But come to think about it, a bit of hardship is actually helpful. It keeps people healthy, but not too much, of course.
So all the work that you do mostly goes on, because we're sitting here in your lab, and I'm sure the tape's picking up a bit of the atmospheric noise. There's a lot of beeps and
Yeah, that's our working life is like. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is your normal working environment.
Yes, that's right. This is a typical research environment for me and my colleagues developing these products, nanostructures I was talking about. The one, in the bottles, these are the nanoporous structures based on carbon, graphene, modified graphene, which we're going to use for electrode structures for batteries and storage media for hydrogen, for lithium ion, and of course, Dr. Srinivas, is one of my research associates. He's been working very hard in modifying the structures. It's really intricate design of the processing conditions. We in fact have developed probably one of the best structures in holding the highest. Actually, this is for sure capture the highest number of CO2 molecules. I mentioned grab CO2 molecules, and also to hold probably the highest amount of hydrogen at the normal ambient condition, because of the traditional graphene is perfect. Graphene is not good for energy storage use, or maybe good for electronics. But we actually want a defective graphene. In the materials field, we have a saying that materials are like people. It's their defects making them more interesting. So we can engineer the defects for the defects to be really useful, to provide exceptional properties in such structures. In fact, even the surfaces, they are defects, if you like, in the normal things for part of the material. Yeah.
So, can you describe your daily routine, like what time you come in, and what sort of comprises in your working day?
Normal working day does vary quite a lot for academics, because there are so many other demands for academic people. So, in a normal working day in the lab, then we would get in around 8:30, 8:30. As I will do, open the computer or check emails. Just make sure we answer quickly the most important things, but leave the rest for later. Then we would come to. I have a coffee machine in my associates' office. I come having coffee with them, discuss with them about their current issues, achievements. Really look into planning a day or the week sort of research activities. Then lunch would depend. It would be simple. We bring lunch, or sometimes we have lunch together. Just a sandwich over coffee, or meeting other colleagues in the college common room to discuss other issues. A day would not go by without meetings and discussions. So this is quite often happening, and would certainly set aside some time to look at new literature, think about new ideas of doing experiments, and if these ideas come with a certain preliminary support, we would write proposals for research council to support a more stable research for 2 or 3 years. And of course, we have to publicize, communicate, disseminate our research results. So writing papers, giving reports, they are also part of the daily work. When we're having breaks, then normally breaks over coffee, answering emails. And the evenings, we, particularly in London, I think most of our class we try to avoid the traffic jam. Whenever possible, we normally leave around certainly after 6, sometimes after 7, or if work really dictates, we could even later. And of course, there are occasions if we had a long evening work, then we'd reward ourselves with a bit of a rest in the morning. So had maybe relax the team maybe after 9. We have flexible working hours, and I think we are trying to be more effective thing is for us to really make best use of our time, effective use of our time, make sure it's more productive. Exercise is important. I forgot to mention exercise. There's a gym just on the other side of the building, so most of us would do 2 or 3, go to the gym or the swimming pool 2 or 3 times a week, just to keep both physical fit and mental fit. Mental physical fitness for the demanding and challenging tasks in academia. And I must say that we enjoy movies and theaters as well, and pubs on Friday nights. So it's not just work, no play.
And you mentioned meetings, and aside from the scientific work, you have some other roles at the university, and I'd just like to discuss them briefly. Can you describe your role as Pro-Provost for China?
Good. As a Pro-Provost, recently redefined as a Pro-Vice Provost, it's the same thing. It's really a role for a senior academic, selected a few senior academics to support the university as a whole in our engagement with a certain region. At UCL, we have 5 Pro-Provosts. China, the Great China region is one which I took responsibility and strategically advised the university in looking into teaching, research, technology transfer, kind of engagement, and operatively advise colleagues about how to engage with groups, complementary groups with groups with complementary strengths. So activities in China, advise on opportunities, and lead delegations to investigate, to make connections, effective connections with our counterparts in China, the top universities, in the Great China region, and research institutions and government offices as well. These are the key tasks, as if like as a Pro-Provost or Pro-Vice Provost. In fact, recently I just came back with our Provost in China. We particularly look into forming a strong collaboration with the Peking University, because we both top universities in big capital cities. We share lots of interest in grand challenges, big challenges. I'm mentioning energy, environment, healthcare. There are also good sciences, good cultural presence, and also we had quite a longer history of interactions as well in many areas, including science engineering. I mentioned quite a lot, but we actually had a joint what we call international center in archaeology. This has been there in Red for over 10 years now. This is between PKU and UCL, supported by some of our alumni in Hong Kong, frequent evening seminars and exchanges and visits. So that cultural kind of interactions become equally important now. In addition, as well as like the science engineering, as you mentioned in the past.
See, because your career spans a very key period of change. Because you're one of the first generations to go to university in China after the Cultural Revolution, and also one of the first generations to go to the West to study from mainland China in the 80s. And these collaborations have continued in those 30 years. And so they've now developed more cultural ties. How do you see that developing in the future? Do you see stronger links? Or?
Certainly, I think that in fact, it's a very good question. I think initially the collaboration was really focused on China's immediate needs for economic developments. Now, given the rapid developments that China has experienced in the past 30 years, there were advances in many areas. Academically, there were very good centers of excellence, produce high quality researchers, and there were industries making very high quality products. For further engagement, we all share the same responsibility about caring the planet, because we are, we are all the villages in the planet. We have to share, issues with the environment. We have to make sure that resources are effectively used, not wasted, certainly not, abused through, poor understanding and conflicts. How can we do that better? In fact, at UCL, I must mention this. We take this cultural interaction and understanding as one of our great also grand challenges. The other ones are in related to global health, sustainable city development, because urbanization is a big trend in the modern society. The other one is human well-being, which is the overall well-being of a person, not physical well-being, but mental, spiritual, the general lifestyle. I mentioned the happiness I had in childhood, and at UCL, we can emphasize diversified a little bit. Intercultural exchange is one of our foreground challenges. So at UCL, we promote very strongly the understanding of different cultures. Certainly, Chinese culture, given its 5,000 or even 7,000 years of history, given how you measure it, has lots of characteristics, if you like, which influence even the modern, particularly the modern society. In order to face the world problems, to collaborate more effectively in many areas, cultural understanding is actually quite important. If you put a cultural understanding in a more general sense, this probably will include the language, history, the collective characteristics of people, sort of living environment, and the recognized, perceived, and actual traits of the people in under that cultural cultural influence are all very, very important. I think, although my feeling is that certainly there are great understanding and recognition of Chinese culture in the West, certainly the Western culture in China as well. But for further developments, I think there's a need for much more in-depth understanding the ways we, the ways the family around and relatives were, supported. We all, I believe, whatever culture, all family relatives are supporting each other. That's the human nature. But the supportive ways probably will be ramified differently in a different culture. So, for example, it's well known that in China, for example, even parents rarely kiss their children or even not cuddle their children. But simple words, eye contacts, and a simple gesture would show the strong support. But here I think it's more. I think the physical contact is a very good way of showing love and affection among family members and people as well. So there's but things are changing. But this is just one example. Other cases about what even for example in working environments, I found that my way of dealing with planning research, dealing with I think my colleagues may be different from other colleagues as well. But however, being here for such a long time, I think my way is my way. Is my colleagues in China and colleagues in UK were dealing with their ways as well. One is due to personality, another is a strong influence of both cultures in me. Or probably even more cultures, because my groups are multicultural as well. There's still colleagues from other parts of certainly other cultural backgrounds. It does influence, or at least give us a better appreciation of different cultures, understanding how different cultures treats recognize, for example, achievements, recognize people, how to solve conflicts. It's quite important. Yeah. Hence, I think a better understanding between China and UK on the cultural language aspects would help both countries to build stronger ties, maybe long-lasting ties, which are unaffected or little affected by occasional, hiccups. I would call hiccups. There are differences in systems, in politics included, of course, but it's important for people to understand a little better and resolve issues on a negotiative discussion table, rather than resort to other punitive sort of measures. I think the punitive measures normally, I think from humanity point of view, affect people in the country, but less of the the political system. But certainly the influences are mutual. I can see how things are running in China is very different from what I experienced 30 years ago.
So do you find your Chinese heritage affects your sort of scientific approach or?
Yeah, it's the cultural aspects. I'm trying to think. It's probably the cultural aspects probably more dealing with more to do with how I handle relationships. Once in general, relationship with people, with colleagues, with business contacts, with other officers. That's probably have more influence from Chinese culture. But in dealing with academic research, I think we have it's more supported by the skills developed over the academic sort of years, which to me is much longer in the West. So the ways of synthesizing issues, identify critical problems, forming plans to target at key issues are quite very much, I think, influenced in my upbringing in a Western cultural environment. However, having said that, I did in fact, when I became a professor in 2000 at Queen Mary, I was asked to give an inaugural lecture. My inaugural lecture was actually on I Ching and materials science. I Ching is the Book of Change, one of the well-known books in Chinese history. But I was really taken by the messages coming out of my actually not very in-depth, but the limited understanding from that from the book, the ways of of balancing the activities and having dual supports in developing a sustainable scientific sort of presence has influenced me greatly. And one of the key influences using the yin-yang balance. I can make many analogies. In my case, I think it means that I should have both tools of experimental methods, but theoretical tools as well, in order for both to be complementary in solving targeting key problems from different angles. So that's why in my group is probably one of the very, very few that actually within the group developed both theoretical and experimental tools in tackling scientific problems. This is just as an example. Yeah.
And so what's the we'll start wrapping up now. And I just wanted to ask you, what do you think is the best thing about your work as a scientist, and then what's the worst thing?
Yeah. The best thing is to be when students knock on my door said Xiao, they don't call me Xiao. I think we made a breakthrough in finding a special nanostructures, new property. So as a scientist, I think having really new phenomena, good discoveries is very fulfilling and satisfying for me, for the students and colleagues. And these are actually obviously the best thing. It certainly has happiness, quality of life greatly. In our career, in our life. Now the worst thing is you can I mentioned it. Is really you just could not find enough time to do things you really want to do. This is probably been said before, but it's truly when you really enjoy what you do as a scientist, to be able to put all the things in the right order in the confinement of the minutes or seconds available in a day is actually very hard. And at the same time, of course, you have to balance other activities at the same time. So, something which is probably probably not the worst, but and not very happy is when we worked on an issue for quite a long time, still not making progress. So we could all have a bit of a pale face for a little while, but we have the persistence to drive and think of ways to solve problems. Yeah. So we have our up and lows and highs and lows and up and downs, but on the whole, it is a progress curve on up. Yeah.
And then in terms of living in Britain and everything, do you have children here now?
Yeah, I have 3 daughters. In the UK. Yeah, they're all in the UK. Yeah.
How do you sort of see they're growing up now in a Western environment? What's your aspirations for them in the future, and how do you try and sort of preserve their Chinese culture, and how do you do that? Yeah. How do you approach that?
I think well, certainly I speak Chinese with my children at home. Yeah, I strongly believe that cultural identity is important because it's a human heritage, and only when one understands well and respects well and supports well its own culture can one speaks about contributing to a greater good of humanity and others. Yeah. I think each of us has the responsibility or obligation to support our culture at the same time for other people to understand our culture and to achieve a great understanding as a whole. So yeah, I think that's what my children can learn Chinese. At the same time, they are living in Britain, and they are some of the lucky ones to have the opportunity to know better of the British culture as well. So this is the cultural origin through, if you like, through race, yeah, and also the cultural presence are most important, whether they're grown up, and then they have the best opportunity of probably understanding both cultures. So in a way, they have a duty and a responsibility to get both cultures, to promote both cultures for greater understanding to their classmates, to people they interact in the future. I think that's really important. Yeah.
And then, what do you do for recreation outside?
Recreation, yeah. Sorry, yeah. I quite enjoy swimming, going to gym, and jogging. Actually, it's something I do quite often. I stay in the north near Barnet. In the weekends, I sometimes walk from Barnet to office. Not sure, but the road along from Barnet to you can actually walk without going through major roads. To the city. Not many people know that. I think I've been talking to many colleagues that do that. It's really enjoyable and good exercise. Really appreciate beautiful nature and talking to other people and walking with friends. It's a really a very enriching sort of experience. To life. So enjoying nature. So I do visit it quite often. Whenever I go, the nature resorts, museums as well, of course, because museums are a way of quickly learn a bit more culture and in the local area. Yep, that's probably what I do. Yeah.
Great. And is there anything else that you'd like to talk about, or that we haven't covered?
I think we covered all of the things. As a Chinese in Britain for much longer than in China. A message I probably wanted to share with many of my fellow Chinese heritage is that promote the Chinese culture at the same time. Support the cultural environments we live in, and try to help create better understanding of those cultures, and making we are all, I believe, bridges, not only working in environments that we enjoy and treasure, but at the same time try to do a bit more beyond what our comfortable zones of dictates. Reach out and talking to more people and visit more and to bring friends along or bring friends over. All this will help to create, I think, a far better world in the future.
Great. Well, thank you so much for participating in our project and sharing your memories with us.
This is my pleasure, really. It's really bringing out many my indeed the past memories. I really treasure that as well.